Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talks at Google. I'm very excited that we're going to be talking today about The Devil Has a Name. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to Talks at Google, Edward James Olmos, David Strathern, and Haley Joel Osment. Hi, guys. My gosh, have you watched that trailer recently? That's intense. Oh, my gosh.
I watch it every morning.
That's a way to fight the quarantine blues. Just watch the same trailer. I like it.
Get pissed off.
I feel it. I feel it. Well, let me ask just to jump right into this. And we were talking about this a little bit before the talk started. The filming for The Devil Has a Name, as far as I know, and Edward, please correct me if I'm wrong, but filming started, I think, in early 2018. We're now toward the end of 2020. Considering how long even quarantine has felt, does it feel like a lifetime since you started working on this film?
For myself, I will say that it's a normal procedure. I mean, it takes forever to get a film out and move it forward. But I will say that this one's timing is really finding itself very well focused. I think that this is a perfect time for this film to come out.
And how about Haley? David, do you remember filming this? Does this feel more recent, or does it feel pretty far away for the two of you?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were just talking about how in some ways it feels not that long ago. And I remember the whole process very well. It was such a fun thing to work on. But time is going fast and slow right now. Like this year, it feels like it's been 10 years, but also I fell asleep and woke up like Rip Van Winkle or something. Like I don't even know how to experience it.
Exactly. It's haven't worked since, and so as if we just wrapped yesterday. And,
oh my gosh!
And seeing you guys brings the vivid, wonderful, vivid memories right back. It was so much fun making this movie. You don't forget these times.
Oh, that's wow! I love that. Yeah. I absolutely love that.
My COVID person is here. I've got to take me 2 minutes.
Go ahead. We support staying healthy here. All right. Now that David's gone, we can talk a lot about his performance, and we all didn't love it. I know. But no, actually, Edward, I want to start with you. It's been almost, I think, 30 years since your directorial debut with American Me. And now we're coming into a very different film. It's 30 years later. How do you approach directing differently, kind of as you've aged, as you've gotten more experience, versus how you kind of approach directing in your first go around?
I'm very fortunate that I was able to understand an aesthetic that I learned from Robert M. Young, who's a brilliant director back in the early 70s when I worked with him for the first time. And I've carried it in all that I do, whether it be as an actor, producer, director, writer, anything. And it's very simple in its understanding. And it really does make my growth constant with whatever I'm doing. So here I am 30 years later, and it's just I'm 30 years more inside of the aesthetics. So yeah, it had a profound, I've had a profound growth in my storytelling. And I think that this one per se was quite different. It was a real tricky little movie because it's a noir kind of piece, but at the same time, it deals with something that is so profound that it hurts. I mean, when we made this, when we started, and Haley and everybody, we were all together, we would talk about the fact that this was a movie that was like Erin Brockovich. It was the same concept, Somebody gets sick from the water and dies of, cancer. And yet at the same time, 2018, when the movie was finally finished and we're getting into it for post-production and getting ready, no one knew that there was going to be a pandemic in 2020 and it would be coming out in 2020. We thought it'd be coming out maybe in 2019, but it didn't. It came out now in 2020, and here we are. And now more than ever, I am so happy that we put a sense of humor and a sense of understanding inside of the piece that makes you really kind of like when you leave the movie, when you finish the movie, you feel good. And it's not a feel-good movie. It's You're learning a lot of stuff. The contamination of water in the Central Valley, which produces about 60 to 70% of all of our food in the United States of America, as well as the vegetables and stuff, as well as 80% of all of the almonds in the world are produced there. You start to see, well, that region really does feed a lot of people. And if they're, under the understanding that they're getting food that is tainted with the usage of water that is contaminated from oil, then you really start to think, what the heck? But if we had done that movie that way, strong, direct in that way, right now you couldn't release it. People wouldn't want to see it. Right now they'd be seeing, look at, I have enough with the fires in the West, the hurricanes in the middle, and all of the problems that we're having up in the Arctic when the ice is melting, and no. And the pandemic, are you kidding? Forget it. Don't need reality anymore. I want to escape. And this is an escape movie. It's a kind of like Haley does a brilliant job. Pablo Schreiber does a brilliant job. David is magnificent. And Marty just like, I couldn't believe this guy. He was so good. And we started with him. He was the very first person that we filmed. We started inside the courthouse in the courtroom. Wow. That's where we started filming. The very first shots we took were Marty inside that, and we started off amazing. And then Haley got into it. Do you remember that, Haley? How we did that? It was so crazy. It felt crazy. It was putting him through it was amazing, and he would say, "What you want me to?" I said, "Haley, pull out all the fucking stops, man. Just go for broke, man. You get her. And it took everybody that was in front of him and Kate Bosworth, and Kate doesn't move. She's so calm. He just sits there, and he was so close, and the guys are pulling him away, and it was really an amazing performance. And we caught it because I was using a lot of cameras. I used a lot of cameras, man. I had to make sure that I caught this. And I didn't want them to do it over and over and over again. I think we made it, 3 times. I think we did it 3 times. And each time it got more intense. So I will say that his performance in that thing was magnificent.
Yeah. It was really great. It's so funny you mentioned that Kate didn't flinch, because I flinched.
Well, I did too. When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" And we were hoping that the guards, the people who had to stop him, could stop him, because he was going for it. He wasn't, you guys better stop me because he's going to go for it. I remember him jumping the rail, and in itself, because everybody said, "Well, how's he going to get it?" I go, "Haley, how are you going to get it?" "Don't worry, I get there." Do you remember, Haley? What did you think when you were doing it? It was.
Those scenes are some of the most fun, that you'll do as an actor. To completely forget all the rules of behavior and boundaries and things like that. To be a huge jerk to Mr. Martin Sheen in a courtroom, you have to leave behind certain conditioned rules of how you're supposed to behave. But yeah, to start off like that really just set the pace for the rest of my experience on this. And really, you don't always get to shoot things in order. And I think this almost helped to not shoot it in order, because we saw how far the character had to go and how much of his humanity he had to leave behind out of his sense of ambition and everything. And that helped me work backwards as we saw him, in the early stages of him selling his soul to this company, for a little profit.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that, because I found I loved all the characters. Your character made a huge transformation. And that it makes me think a little bit about kind of looking at the beginning of your career to where you are now. There were a lot of a little heavier dramas in the beginning. And then over time, I started seeing you pop up in like every one of my favorite comedies that I would watch, like whether it was Teachers or Silicon Valley or What We Do in the Shadows. You kept popping up in these roles that you would knock out of the park. You'd come in, you'd come out, home runs across the board. Is there something that attracted you more to some of those bigger performances and more toward comedy kind of as you progressed in your career? Or do you have any differences in feelings that you get from doing maybe a TV comedy or a feature drama?
I'll always, weigh every project based on, how good the script is, how interesting the character seems. It's definitely a guiding principle to try and do as many different characters as possible and to try and find a lot of variety. But, the increase in comedies that I've been doing, it's just over the past several years, it's such a boom in comedy right now. I mean, there's just so many interesting things getting made. So I think that was less a conscious choice on my part, and just that there's such an amazing variety available. But, when you act from a young age, and most people's vision of you in their mind for a long time is of you at like 12 or something, it also presents this opportunity to be like, well, now you can kind of shatter that, or, play against it, or play. I mean, it's funny. I've just sort of trapped myself with this beard with continuity over the past couple of years. And initially I just grew that to be like, oh, this will, be a disguise. Like, this can help me, hide at the baseball game or something. And now it's become, the part of all these characters. So I think I'm going to go shaved head next.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, if I could grow a beard like you, I would too. I can't, I don't have the growth on the sides here. No, that's awesome. And, David, I know you and I were talking about this before we started, but I'm a very avid TV and movie watcher. I was making a joke earlier that I think I could turn on the TV and one of the three of you is probably going to be in whatever I'm watching. You in particular keep incredibly busy. I was curious, based on the projects you've done before, what attracted you most to this particular film and to working with Edward?
Well, you just said working with Edward.
Yeah,
that was the first green light in my mind, and then the story, and as he described how he wanted to tell this story, I heard you guys talking about how if it had been a dark, hell bent for election indictment, and people would kind of, oh yeah, we've seen this before, but the way the story was composed with all these characters, how he described he wanted to do it and how it came out, seems like just they were, just welded together. And often you don't often get the vision so intact and the integrity of the vision to come fruition. So that was the way he described how he wanted to tell the story was a very attractive one, and the story itself. I think these are important things to talk about. I think we should always talk about those things in the film business, the creative arts, whether they will confess to it or not. It's part of our responsibility to be messengers, and in a way that people can entertain themselves and at the same time entertain the issues, which means to think about the issues. We can sort of waken people up and activate some curiosity and maybe activate some activism. That's all the better. So this is one of those stories that covered all the bases, from just a carnival ride and a very serious indictment of corruption in our world.
Yeah, it was tough. I think watching this, when I was thinking about kind of the questions I wanted to ask, this tackles so many good themes that it's tough, I think, to pick one. This film, I would say, seamlessly integrates probably 5 or 6 different issues and causes that we're dealing with, especially right now in 2020, and weaves them in the story, which to your point, I found very moving.
I just want to say one thing that nobody has asked me yet. I don't know if they've asked you, Ali or Eddie, but your deft little sleight of hand use of your selfie situation with camera. That's something that we take for granted. And here's this, here's Sancho Panza, from the 1400s with in love with his selfie. And then there's this farmer guy, who's a bit of a Luddite, going, what the hell is that? And that's important. And just puts it out there with a little brushstroke of what we are in a way addicted to, and treats it humorously. And I don't know. I just thought it was really one of the clever things that people really haven't put put the high beam on that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Edward, I'm curious, in the two of the other films that you directed, which I think a lot of people know, American Me and Walkout, there's maybe a consistent theme of inequality, whether it's around criminal justice reform and education, with a lot of other elements, I think, that played into both of those films as well. How do you feel that theme kind of carried forward into The Devil Has a Name? And how do you feel like maybe it expanded in other ways, this idea of inequality?
Boy, the inequality in this picture is more than almost anything we've touched, because I didn't know what net present value meant. I had no idea, and when I found out, and you see it and you hear it, when Marty says it and then explains it, and people are listening to us right now, I have no idea what we're talking about. It's not, 99% of the people on the planet right now have no idea what net present value means, and that is a honest truth that they use to do business in corporations and business throughout mentality, throughout the greed world. Okay, anywhere where there's greed, this is like monumental. What it means, net present value means, is that if you make more money than it costs you to take care of the problem that you've created, continue doing it. That's it. Now, when I've done many films and I've directed and I've been in them, but nothing was so blatantly ugly, corporate-wise, than that kind of greed, where it doesn't matter how many people die. 210,000 people are dead right now. Hey, come on, just part of life. Are you kidding me? Oh, wait a minute, stop, slow down. Don't do this to me. Don't devaluate one life. And it's happening, and it's just a number now. You see it in like you're watching the weather. Weather changed today, and so that, to me, this movie is in perfect timing now. I said to myself, how's this movie going to be held? We showed it, we premiered it at the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, and Haley was there, and I was there. David wasn't able to be there; he was working, and so we were all there and we were watching it, and people loved it, and I said, wow, I guess it works. And they laughed, and they understood the seriousness, and they felt good when at the very end, when it was over. And that, to me, was the most important aspect. I mean, look at Aaron Brockovich. I didn't feel good when I was at the end of Aaron Brockovich. It's just like, oh, Jesus, I hope that they catch these people. I hope they get, they can get rid of this problem, water contamination there. They haven't. Here, they haven't. It's 2020. The same things that I saw in 2017 when I went in there and I started my very first view of the real ponds. When I saw them the first time, I said, "Oh my God!" And I was dying. I mean, the inhalation. We shouldn't have been there without hazmat suits and masks, gas masks on. The way the kids were in the movie, when Haley and Kate walk up and he says, this is this water's good for nothing. And he goes, well, what's wrong with it? Besides the fact that it's radioactive? And he goes, you're kidding. And he says, it's cancer. You're kidding with cancer? What's wrong with it? And he's like, oh, should I be wearing one of those? The first thing he says. And she goes, yeah, you should. And I should have been wearing one when I snuck in to film in my own little camera the real ponds. I should have been wearing one of those. I shouldn't have gone in there taking in for 15, 20 minutes the amount of this air that I was consuming. And I left, and it's happening right now, 2018. You can go to Google search and you'll see the ponds. They're there. They're there. They're still there. And it's quite interesting to understand it for what it is. So that my work has always been work that hopefully will entertain you. Okay, really give you a sense of entertainment. Wow, excitement, drama, whatever. And this was not a comedy. These are situations that became really comedic because of the situation. When Haley jumps in the courtroom, it's hysterical, but it wasn't funny, man. This guy was going to hurt this woman, but it's hysterical. And they're grabbing him, and he's hollering, "Fuck it, fuck." I think we counted 13 fuck yous in the movie. And when he appeared, I had to pull some of them out. I couldn't leave them all that we saying. It was so funny. It was hysterical. I mean, people were dying of laughter. They applauded after he was done. They applauded. People applauded the scene. They were there, all the extras and everybody. It was just amazing. But this, per se, study of greed and the personification of understanding of what the net present value means, where if you make 5 billion and you kill 50,000 people or 10,000 people, or you exploit or demoralize the entire water system of the country, so that but it only costs you 1 billion or 2 billion to rectify and make everybody go away because you gave them all this money, okay? But you made 5, you want to continue doing it. Don't stop. And that's what's happening right now. They're not stopping this. They're not getting rid of the water any other way. They're now spraying it on the side of mountains through water trucks, but they still have the large pits full of water, and it's contaminating the water supply. And then look, inevitably, I will say that nothing will change because greed is way ahead of us, and as long as they can make this kind of money, they're not going to stop. They're not. They can just pay it off. Until it costs them more money than they're making, then they'll stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I were on the East Coast now with David instead of drinking the water that you're talking about.
I'm going to say something really quick. When we were out shooting there, people would come up to us and be like, "Oh, you want to try our almonds?" You'd be like, "Are these the same almonds that are in the movie? the ones with the radioactive water?" Thank you.
Tell me you didn't eat them. Did you eat them?
Oh, the social contract is so strong.
Haley, no.
Yeah.
The sun has radiation. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're starting to sound like my mother. Don't say that. My gosh. Okay. I'm gonna pivot a little bit. David, I'm gonna come to you. You've worked with a ton of different directors in a ton of different mediums. Edward in specific is someone who in this instance was not only playing the role of the director, but was also arguably your main scene partner in the film. What are some of the differences, not only in working with an actor / director versus just a straight ahead director, but also potentially working with the director as your scene partner in a bulk of the movie?
Well, this is the first time I've worked with John Sayles was in a couple of scenes that, Abe and Out, he was in a scene that I was in. This is the high watermark, I have to confess, because Eddie is, I would call him both a actor's director, and I would also call him a director's actor, because he did both seamlessly. I mean, he'd be in the middle of the scene and he'd say, "Well, let's do it this way." No, maybe she wanted to do it that way, And is Santi talking to me, or is Eddie talking to me? Oh, right. And then he'd be out talking to Ray or somebody on the set, and I think, God, he's still in character. Santi's out there telling Ray what to do. But, oh, no, he's the director. Oh, of course. It was seamless. But also as if was born to do this. I mean, it was, and I'm not trying to blow any smoke here. I'm being very sincere that this was because of that, of who he is. It was so much fun, and as I said, this is sort of the high watermark. If you were to work with a director who's also the actor, I couldn't really tell who he was at any given moment.
Oh my gosh, Haley, did you deal with you weren't in as many scenes with Edward. Did you deal with similar issues?
No, only for one segment, I think. But I saw what David is talking about, and it is very cool to see. And one of my favorite parts of doing this movie was this long scene that we had at this trucker's diner. I forget what part of town that was at, but the setting was so neat, and Ray lit it so cool, and there's neon, and it just was a really cool environment to be in. And it was kind of the height of my character's deception, where he tries to sort of slip back into the familiar, just one of the boys from around town, even changes his accent slightly, to what he's tried to hide in his corporate life. But I love that. Doing a big meaty scene with those guys, and seeing Eddie work with Ray, their interaction is so cool. The way that he lights in a really unique way. He'll see us do it for a take, and then it's part of seeing how the entire scene goes. There's a little bit of adjustment after that, and there's some finessing, and it's just a very awesome creative environment to be in.
Yeah, that was the scene, I believe, where you ruined pancakes for me. I think right there. I was supposed to have pancakes the next day, and you ruined that, and I'm not thrilled. I won't tell anyone how.
Think of radioactive water all over your breakfast.
Yeah. And I was going to have chocolate chips.
I luckily didn't have to eat any. That's one thing you learn, is never establish yourself eating, because then you'll be eating 50 pancakes over the course of 12 hours.
That would have been a lot of corn syrup.
Yeah, it was funny. After we were watching, my girlfriend turned to me and she goes, "It was a great movie, but I cannot imagine someone saying, 'May I have this?' Take your entire plate uneaten and put their fingers in it." Yeah. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't like that either, I don't think.
That's how
Yeah, I'm sure that was your favorite part. But overall in the film, just to recap, because I don't know if you've thought about this with your experience in the movie, you had a car chase, you had a fight scene, your talk show appearance. I mean, your character was everywhere all the time. I have to ask, I know it's hard to pick a favorite. Did you have any particular favorite moment to film, to actually perform?
It really was like a kaleidoscope experience. And it's fun being a character that kind of plugs in every so often in the film and gets to work in terms of, because being in the courtroom with Martin was one speed, doing the insane talk show with Brian and Aaron was a very fun day, because we just did like a dozen different setups, and he's giving it to somebody in a wheelchair, and they're dancing, and that's when it kind of gets into its almost fantastical mode in the movie, which I like doing. But yeah, the car chase, two mini car chases with the yellow Hummer, and that's one where they're like, it looks fast on film. You don't have to drive fast. You're like, I can drive fast. How fast do you want me to drive it? Be loud. I'll do a donut.
Yeah, you were also, it was 2 car chases and 2 fight scenes. That's you were everywhere.
One extremely emasculating fight scene. That's a one-sided fight scene. Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't going to spoil anything. That was quite a scene to be seen. And by the way, I know, just for folks that are watching, please submit any questions that you have. I'm going to ask a couple more, but then I want to make sure we get some Q&A in here. Edward, I know that right now we're in Hispanic Heritage Month. I don't know if you saw this. The New York Times did a feature with Latin actors and Latino filmmakers about when they felt seen on screen. And in that, a bunch of people contributed. Your name came up multiple times as one of the first times that a lot of Latino actors and Latino filmmakers felt seen on screen. I was curious about how you feel about the role that you've personally played in bringing Latino representation on screen, and maybe people that you've worked with over the course of your career that have inspired you in a similar fashion.
The whole understanding of this is always been, it's a process which has taken, 100 years. And going back to the original talkies, and when they started, there was, great Latino actors that were doing work then, and all through the days of, Jose Ferrer, and Anthony Quinn, Rita Moreno, and, Rita Hayworth, and, great Latino actors that have definitely given us, but what the difference was, and this is what's really amazing, when we did Zoot Suit, it was a character and a statement in theater that had never been seen before. It was a culture for the first time being seen on the major stages of the world. And the first time that Chicanos, Mexican Americans, were ever represented, ever in the history of American theater. Well, the same thing happened with, the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez in film, where we did a movie about a hero, he's a normal cattle rancher who had a small little farm and in Gonzales, Texas, and the border had crossed him. He didn't cross the border. He was living there when it was Mexico, and then when his family wasn't there. So it changed, came over to the other side. And that story became what it is, and it became a part of Americana. And then all of a sudden we did, Zoot Suit the movie, and then we did, Stand and Deliver, and and all of a sudden we were doing work that had never been done before because no one had ever done a movie about Latinos that way, and not Anthony Quinn didn't do it. Rita wasn't in movies like that. Jose Ferrer, none of the Latinos that were before me had the opportunity to really tell a story that dealt strictly with the culture itself, at the highest end. And so that being said, it was wide open. So I wasn't trying to do anything other than to tell stories. And all of a sudden, people would say to me, "Do you know you're the first?" I said, "No, I didn't. Thank you very much." But it's kind of sad. We're in 1978. We're not in 1890 or something. And so basically, as that evolved, and I got to the point of being able to continue this kind of work, I didn't take the In Line of Fires. I didn't take the Scarfaces with Al Pacino. I didn't take those movies. I decided to do the ballads and the Stand and Delivers, and rather than to do the other ones, and so I stayed true. I could have been a lot more famous and wealthy. I could have been a lot more wealthier if I had done exactly the things that were offered to me. But I would have been right alongside of Denzel and Morgan Freeman and all those guys. Along those kind of movies I would have been making, commercial viable pieces that they used me in, and I probably would have helped my career for sure, but helped my culture by being a bigger star, like Jennifer Lopez. But come on, who would have done the Stand and Delivers? Who would have done the walkouts? Who would have done this? I mean, this movie, which is very, very interestingly not Latino, becomes a statement about, migrant workers and immigrants, and are they really immigrants? Well, is Santiago an immigrant? What is he? We know he's an anarchist because he's told that many times. But at the same time, so all of a sudden, my body of work is not extensive. When I did the Battlestar Galactica, it was the most major piece of work that had ever been done on Latinos in the history of television. More so than even the Miami Vice when I did Lieutenant Castillo, which gained a lot of notoriety, a lot of understanding. But, like Jimmy Smits and Andy Garcia and all these guys that have done extraordinary work in great shows. Marty Sheen doing, West Wing and all that. But no, when we did a science fiction movie and they had the Admiral, a Latino, Guillermo, William Adama, he's the savior of humanity in the future, which was really the past, when you realize that we came into the world and we found the earth 200,000 years ago, and everybody's going, oh my God, wait a minute, I don't understand this. No kidding, you know, we're from another space and understanding. So that happened. It augmented everything, and all of a sudden now the chips are starting to fall very strongly, and it's still not the same. We're only less than 4% of the images that you see on film and television, and we are almost 22% of the population, even though they're going to tell us that we're 20, 21. We're well into 65 to 70 million Latinos that live in the United States of America. That being said, it's going to be, and what we've done, and I'll make this quick, we've started the Use Cinema Project, which now teaches children how to use cinema, how to create film, of the whole perspective. All year long, they're taught by 2 filmmakers that I put in every single class. We're in 13 school districts in California. We teach 1,400 kids this year alone are learning how to make films. We make over 130 films a year. We produce more films from 4th grade all the way up to 12th grade, and they learn how to do all the aspects of filmmaking, not just one aspect, all of it. From they learn communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity at the highest level. The self-esteem, self-respect, and self-worth goes through the roof. They end up coming out of the 4th grade like they're shot from pistols. Kids that take this class compared to kids that don't take this class, monumental in difference in understanding. Teachers in the 5th grade, 6th grade say, where do these kids come from? They're completely different than those over here. What's going on here? What happened here? These people, these communicate, they collaborate, they look at you in the eye. You can see their self-esteem, self-respect, they're on you. And how do they learn that? By filmmaking. They get into a little group and they make their films. And to make a film, you have to collaborate. You have to communicate. There's a director, there's a producer, there's a cinematographer, the sound department, there's the makeup, and there's all of the different departments. They're all the kids that take a department. They choose where they want to be. And then they make their movie. And then we show it at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. You know, we show it on the big screen. They see the 3-minute films. And they all come dressed up in their suits and everything. They all come and they watch it, all their parents. It's amazing. And then we use Pixar up north to show all the pictures that are north of San Francisco. And we show, here we use the Academy, and we use Grauman's Chinese to show the films because there's so many. And we have definitely changed. So, yeah, I am who I am, and I understand who I am. And I'm very grateful that people respect me and they've given me this. But I got to tell you, it was a process, and I couldn't have done it without, Rita Moreno. I couldn't have done it without Anthony Quinn. I couldn't have done it without these other people doing what they did that opened an understanding of the quality of the work that can be done. And then I saw them, did it. Wow, okay, I'll do my version of it. But I chose to be here with David and Haley. I chose to use these guys. I chose Marty. I chose Kate. I directed this piece. And now it's a vision, it's a piece of work that will go on to last, I think it'll probably last a couple hundred years easy. Somebody will see it and say, wait, have you ever seen this movie? It's the weirdest little movie you've ever seen. The devil has a name. What? You can watch it. It's kind of weird. It's just different. There's something different about it. And then they'll watch it, and what are they going to get out of it? The contamination of the water supply in the Central Valley that's killing all of us.
Oh boy! What a note to end on, Edward. My. We were so uplifted. We're educating children. We're bringing a new wave of cinema, and you're like, and you're all gonna die from the water supply.
Welcome to 2020.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, I know we're out of time. I want to thank 3 of you personally for being here. I enjoy all of your work very much. Edward, I know you said that you could have been Denzel. To someone like me who's been watching film for a long time, you are very much like Denzel. I really appreciate your time. I hope everyone goes to see The Devil Has a Name, or not goes. Don't go out, whatever, COVID, what have you. Rent it. And please, and take action. This movie made me feel like I should be taking more action, and I hope that other people feel the same way. Yeah. But thank you for your time, guys. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Josh. Good words. Eddie, you're the best.
Haley, thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's really nice seeing you guys again.
Really good to see you.
Tell another tale.
I will. I'll call you guys again. Don't worry.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right.
Bye.